Welcome to the Vision Quest video series, a step-by-step guide to holistic health. Today's program will discuss dream therapy.
Well, my name is Shelley Lesson Stockwell, and I'm a hypnotherapist, transpersonal hypnotherapist, which means that I'm very interested in all states of consciousness, the subconscious and the conscious and the superconscious, the part of us that knows expanded things like past lives and future lives and is very intuitive, highly creative. So I'm interested in that as a hypnotist, and I'm also a trance channel, which means that I put myself into an altered state and my guides speak through me.
In this program, we'll explore the origins and philosophies of dream therapy, how to analyze dreams, the symbols behind dreams and their meanings, the Jungian approach to dream therapy, and the way to best recall your dreams.
Expert researchers of psychotherapy and neuroscience have for many years used several methods to explore the vast reaches of the human mind, including meditation, hypnosis, drugs, biofeedback, free association, and even brain imaging devices. However, in many ways, the analysis of dreams has been the most useful. Despite their sometimes puzzling narratives and unusual imagery, dream reports are fairly easy to obtain from almost anyone. Dreaming generally begins about 90 minutes just after falling asleep. During this time, the neurons at the base of the brain begin a random barrage of electrical impulses that unleash a cascade of potent chemicals, stimulating the visual and motor centers of the forebrain. Immediately, the brain begins to put these impulses into order, formulating a story that will make sense of these fragments. Sometimes these stories may reflect basic issues in an individual's life which have not been dealt with, while at other times they may reflect events of the past few days or hours, some being trivial while others are more consequential. This process of telling and constructing stories from little or more than a jumble of pictures and events is remarkably similar to what occurs when using language while awake. Dreams are thought to be the language of the night. Some cultures speak of the time of dreaming, where sacred or heroic past deeds were accomplished. The mental and emotional processes which occur during dreaming are said to be in many ways similar to the thoughts and feelings which take place during wakefulness. By recording dreams, many scientists and dream therapists believe that further insight into an individual may be obtained, including behavior, experiences, and intentions. Many psychotherapists believe that their clients will greatly benefit from understanding their dreams because they provide metaphors for our waking concerns. For instance, the analysis of a pregnant woman's dreams observed an unusually high number of references to architecture, small animals, and family members. Dreams about members of the family are not unexpected at this time when the dreamer's family is a frequent concern. However, how did architecture and animals come into the picture? Dream therapists believe that, in this instance, The small animals may have represented the fetus, while the buildings might have represented the pregnancy itself or the building of the baby inside the womb.
Well, it's really understanding the symbols of your dreams and how your own higher self is assisting you to make quantum leaps, really, by looking at an issue that may come from your childhood and how that's affecting your current lifetime experience and also your ability to move forward in your life at the present time. And certainly we all have issues, I think, where something from our childhood is an unconscious fear that's been buried and suppressed for many years, and then a dream situation will alert you to that because it's something you're about to face in your waking life. And certainly people have a lot of dreams that are prophetic. In fact, I say to people, if you have a dream, the same dream at least 3 times, then take more notice of it, because it may indeed be something that, as a prophetic dream, if it's a disaster, you can avoid it, and if not, you can enjoy it. If it's a good dream, you might as well take the advantage and make the most of it.
From the earliest times, individuals have recorded their dreams and found meaning, wisdom, and guidance in them. Through the centuries, the dream was presumed to be a spiritual event, a gift from God, or a gift from some source beyond the ordinary. In numerous religious and spiritual faiths, from the most primitive to the most civilized cultures, the dream was viewed as a holistic event or an experience reflecting the wholeness of the person. In biblical and shamanic traditions, the dream was viewed as benefiting not only the individual, but also the entire group or community. In contrast, among early Christians, dreaming was discouraged by the official church because dreams were thought to be superstition. By the 5th century, it appeared that most Christians were no longer recording or using dreams to develop moral or spiritual growth, but rather to predict fortunes. Now, in the modern West, the analysis of dreams or dream therapy is again finding a place among our lives, and dream therapists are found in numerous countries all over the world.
Well, I think modern dream therapy is wonderful. Most of the books that I read on dreaming would have to kind of stay in alignment with the way that I talk about dreams and with what we know now about the physical body and how the chakra system works, all the energy centers in the body. Certainly, if I have a dream that I'm being stabbed in the heart, the first thing I would do would be to pay attention to an area in my heart chakra that might need healing or repair or even encouragement and inspiration. So depending on the context and the content of the dream, certainly there are lots of factors that are really similar in all dream therapies, and they're the things that I tend to focus on mostly in my work. Some people use different models, I suppose. I mean, if you want to look at the history of dreaming, Freud was the first person who started to really take dreams seriously, and all the psychologists who studied with him have taken it a step further. Freudian dream therapy tends to look more at the sexual kind of aspects of dreams and relate everything back to our instincts and our sexual purpose, whereas Jungian dreams tend to incorporate a lot more mysticism because that was Jung's style. So if you're going to a Freudian dream therapist or a Jungian dream therapist, you'll get slightly different dream interpretations. I tend to use a bit of both, and plus a lot more of the psychic awareness work that I've done, where I really truly believe that our dreams are one of the ways that our higher self can communicate with us on a daily level. And for people who don't meditate, often their dreams are the only source they have of inspiration.
Many well-informed and educated individuals continue to state that dreams and dream therapy is nonsense because dreams are without meaning. Some even state that trying to analyze dreams may actually be hazardous to one's health. On the other hand, many modern researchers such as Montague Ullman believe that dream therapy may be very therapeutic and healing, and formulated the following. Dreams are an internal communication which reveal the truth about the life of that dreamer. If dreams are recalled, then in some way we are ready to confront the information in that dream. If the confrontation is allowed to occur in the right way, then the effect is one of healing. Although dreams are a private communication process, by sharing them in a safe, supportive atmosphere, then they can provide a powerful opportunity for therapy or healing. And dreams can be made accessible to anyone with sufficient motivation and interest to learn, develop, and share them. In dream therapy, certain objects or animals may represent parts of the body or other symbols which include a staircase, spine, a window, eyes, or a car, representing the body. An experienced dream therapist takes into account many factors when analysing someone's dreams, as dreams and dream symbols are very unique to each individual depending on countless factors. In recent research, numerous studies have indicated that some individuals may dream certain repeated images during the following physical dysfunctions: sore throats, hemorrhoids, heartburn, peptic ulcer, appendicitis, bronchitis, pneumonia, migraines, arthritis, and heart attacks. Dreams can also represent mental or physical traumas in certain individuals, such as hysterectomies, dreamer is raped by two strangers, abortions, bulldozers break a garage door and steal a car, surgeries, dreamer sees dead person or animals, or war wounds, car crashes or disasters, dreamer replays a traumatic injury.
I would tend to encourage people to enjoy the fear that comes up for them in a dream, or if they're feeling really angry and they're physically hurting somebody, that's an unexpressed emotion that's totally unapplicable when you're in the office. You can't really get out a machete and start hacking into the boss, but in your dream you have total freedom to do any of those things, and it's easy, you know. It really helps people to keep their emotional imbalances under control and to actually express themselves in a safe way. Well, the one that comes to mind first of all would be water. People dream about water, and in general, even in astrology, water is considered to be associated with the emotions. And mostly in dreams, I would say that was true. If you're looking at murky water that's very muddy, then you have murky and muddy emotions to deal with. If the water in your dream is crystal clear, then your emotions are feeling buoyant and uplifting, and you have a lot of clarity, and you might be in love or really inspired by something. If you're dreaming about the ocean, then it's like a limitless emotion, a very deep feeling. If you're dreaming that you're beside a swimming pool, it's a more contained emotion. It's not something that, you know, you've got more control over that particular emotional situation. And certainly if you're in the water or out of the water is also an indication of how easy it is for you to handle emotional issues or emotional situations. In every single culture, we have similar experiences. Certainly in Australia, it's very interesting because we have a multicultural society, and what I've noticed is that people of different nationalities have slightly different types of symbols in their dreams based on their own upbringing and social structure. So for us, if we're watching television every night and reading and moving and doing all those sorts of things, elements of those activities will creep into our dreams. So if I were a Bedouin out in the desert, my dream content would have more to do with herding goats and finding water and pitching tents and doing things like that. But in the society that I live in, naturally the dreams are going to have more content from television programs and books or newspaper articles or things like that. Even today, people will dream about war because they've seen it on television. They'll imagine that the war that's going on in Northern Ireland is actually happening in a capital city close to them. And so we bring our own personal experiences and our fears into our dreams to help us to resolve our own issues and our own thoughts about particular things that are happening on a global level. Certainly I've noticed that in the last 10 years, more and more people are dreaming about dolphins and whales because it's being drawn to their attention on a daily or a weekly or a monthly level in the media. So that has a lot to do with it. Your waking experiences are mirrored constantly in your dreams, and if you pick up a dream dictionary that was written in the 16th century, it's going to have a lot more information about what horses mean in dreams, because the horse was our mode of transportation 100, 200 years ago. Nowadays, people would tend to dream about being on their tricycle if they're preschool, on their bike if they're going to primary or elementary school, on their kind of motorbike or something, and as we move through, we'll just experience those different modes of transport, so that a person dreaming about being in a car today in the 90s would be dreaming about their personal direction in the same way someone in the 16th century may have had that same experience, but they would have been in a horse-drawn vehicle.
Dream therapy is and always has been a very important part of Jungian analysis. Jungian therapists see dreams as insights into conscious defences, which we employ to cope with problems in our lives. Jungian analysis aims to interpret a dream through a method of hierarchy from 4 levels. The contextual level, or the background of the dream, which includes the life experience of the dreamer. The personal level, which incorporates personal associations to the dream story. The transpersonal level, which includes the objective psyche or the consciousness present in all life processes. And the holistic level, which encompasses all 3.
So you have a dream that you'd like me to look at and maybe give you some help analysing?
Yes, I do, Quentin. The dream I have is a recurring dream that I've had the last couple of years, and it's set on a beach. It's a perfect day at the beach, beautiful white sand, very calm, clear water, and I'm very content. And then suddenly there's a tidal wave not far from the beach, and I'm absolutely terrified. And within a very short period of time, it's gone. Nothing happens. It comes up and it stops, and then it's gone, and then I wake up. It's a very short dream.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about this dream is that as I've gone on with it, the last time I had the dream, the tidal wave actually washed over. I was feeling a little bit, well, not as terrified as before, but it actually washed over and disappeared, and nobody was hurt. So that was very...
And is there anything significant about the time that you have these dreams? Is it before some event in your life? Or?
Yeah. When I've been looking back at them, they've been times when I'm just about to perform the next evening. Either with something I'm very scared about, it's a new gig or a new venue, or I'm doing something that I've never done before.
Which is great, because when you're on a beach, it's a sense of freedom and expansiveness, and also it's a place where you go to totally relax. So in a situation where you ought to be totally relaxed on the beach with the beautiful white sand and the lovely clear sparkling water, the clear sparkling water is usually a symbol of clear, crystal clear emotions. If the water was murky and horrible and irky, then it would show you that you had some sort of unconscious issue that you hadn't resolved. But because on your dream beach the water's so beautiful and clear, everything ought to be fine, except that as you're standing there, the tidal wave comes up and then dissipates. So really it's just a symbol of the unconscious uncertainty that you might be having just before you're about to go on and perform, whether your voice is going to carry over, all the little incidental things that you might fear before you go into, as you said, a new venue, or you're doing something that you haven't done, or you're singing something that you're not really as familiar with as some of the old things that you've done. So the fact that no one ever gets hurt and the tidal wave washes right up and over the top of you in that last dream you were talking about, again is the way that your dream teacher is showing you that all the little fears that you have before you're about to perform are probably quite normal. I mean, I think that you'll find that you probably have that butterfly feeling whenever you're about to go on, just that moment before you step onto the stage. I think most performers go through that. And certainly the dream is just a great way of actually going through that unconscious fear before you have to go on stage and do what it is that you want to do. It's a great dream, I love it. Daniel, you've had some really complex and interesting dreams that you want to ask me about. What's the one that first springs to mind for you?
Well, the most recent one was one which started with me being in a dining room in a house in the country, and the house was surrounded by eucalyptus forest, and I was in the dining room laying a large table for a lot of people, and also in the dining room were a lot of children, and outside were their parents, and outside the house was a sort of wooden fence corral with a horse, and the various adults were standing around admiring the horse and talking and generally being very friendly. And from there I found myself sitting in a gum tree on a steep slope which led down to the shores of a long, narrow lake. And the lake was completely surrounded by dense eucalyptus forest. And as I sat in the branches of the tree, this snake crawled up the trunk of the tree towards me, and at that moment I felt quite scared. And then the snake slithered past me along the branch and then leapt off the branch and flew out over the forest, over the trees, and landed in the lake. And it then came to the surface and started swimming along through the water, at which point it suddenly grew legs and became, as it were, a lizard. And then suddenly a crocodile appeared from in the water behind it and came up behind the lizard and consumed it. The crocodile then swam towards the bank, and as it climbed out of the water, it turned into a golden retriever. And the golden retriever came up the bank towards me and sat underneath the tree. And I then felt a bit safer now, so I climbed out of the tree and I sat down on the bank next to the golden retriever, and we had a long, involved discussion about the benefits of various different mobile telephones. And
what a lovely twist.
that was pretty much the end of the dream.
So the beginning of the dream is interesting. Did that area that you described with the eucalyptus forest and the house, does that remind you of anywhere that you've been at any other time in your life, earlier in your life?
Well, not specifically, but I sort of placed the location as being the Blue Mountains, and it was very similar countryside to a place where I spent some of my school days in the Victorian Alps.
So I'd say that really that's what the key feature of the dream is. It's showing you, because you live in Sydney now, but it's also showing you a time that you were in that environment when you were at school in Victoria. So apropos of that, you're laying a table in a dining room. Now that's also an interesting symbol, because your dream starts off where you're in an environment that's similar to where you live now, but also similar to an environment you lived in the past.
Yeah.
And then the table that you're laying for the many people, parents and children that are there, is a way that you have now of actually sharing your abundance with your friends and their families, or maybe relatives, whoever it is in your life that's significant for you at the moment. The beautiful setting of the house that you're dreaming about is also indicative of how you want your life to be. A house in a dream is always a symbol of yourself. And because in your house you're being the perfect host, laying the table and setting it all nicely, it's showing you, for instance, how you want to be around your friends and family. You want to be gracious, you want to be generous, you want to share your abundance with other people. And then rather than stay and dream on about the lavish meal you're about to serve on the dining room table, you wander off in your beautiful property up onto an area where you can overlook the whole house and look down towards the ambling long lake that's close to the house, or is it?
Well, it seemed to be in the same geographical area, but not necessarily next to it.
And you go past the horse. Now, a horse is another interesting symbol in dreams. Was it a particular colour, the horse in your dream?
Well, it was a brown horse. In the corral, yes, and so and everybody was standing around admiring it.
Did it look like a thoroughbred, or was it a workhorse? What kind of quality did it have?
It looked like it really looked like a brumby, a sort of mountain horse, not quite a racehorse, but not a.
So that really tells us a lot about your personality. You don't actually see yourself as the sleek thoroughbred, but there's a slightly wild aspect of yourself that you've corralled. It's in a corral right next to the house, and people are admiring it, and that's actually a symbol of your own inner freedom. Horses represent that ability we all have to break out and run free and expand ourselves. If the horse was running along the beach, it might have a more sexual connotation to having it in the corral by the house, so that for you it's an animal that adds to your pleasure and delight and your joy in actually having this wonderful country state with the eucalyptus forest and the lake and the gorgeous environment. And then you stroll off and you walk up and you sit under a gum tree and you survey your environment. So you're lord of all you survey in that moment. And as soon as you relax, the snake comes out along the limb of the branch. And a snake always represents the masculine energy, apropos of, you know, the snake being a creature that stays coiled and then will leap out at its prey. It's a fierce and sort of ferocious animal, really. And it can be associated with negative things, like the fear of death or instant harm, especially in Australia, where we have 7 of the most deadliest snakes anyway.
Some of whom I've met.
So, you know, obviously the fear there is indicative of what you would expect if you were in a very bushy environment with a lot of eucalypts. But also as a symbolic thing in your dream, it may represent just the social structure that you have to deal with in your everyday life. However, it sort of doesn't come and attack you or interfere with you in any way.
No.
It would just be like the male social world that you are having to deal with. And the fact that the snake then lurches itself right off the gum tree, plunges into the water, and is eaten by a crocodile, which is, again, that part of the reptilian brain, you know, the fight, flight, ravenous kind of creatures that you expect to find at the bottom of murky pools. So
it's very primal.
The crocodile and the shark and various animals like that are often symbols of our deep unconscious fears. So in your dream, whether you knew that you had a crocodile in your lake or not, depending on where it is in Australia, where the setting is, the crocodile is then a symbol of your unconscious fear. You know, will you ever get this wonderful property? Will you have all your heart's desires there? The crocodile eats the snake and then moves up onto land. So again, you've got the snake going from being a small and terrifying animal to becoming a crocodile, which is a bigger and more terrifying creature to meet in the wild. At least with a snake bite, you may have a chance of saving yourself if you can get the venom in time or cut the poison out of the bit on your leg or your arm where it's bitten you. But a crocodile, you don't have as much luck. It can take off a whole arm or a foot or a leg, or if it's big enough, it can eat you whole.
Unless you're Paul Hogan, of course.
Of course. But never mind. So, not. So we'll take that one as read. But certainly the fact that, you know, as you move through your life, sometimes your fears are handleable and they're very easy for you to resolve, and at other times you seem overwhelmed by them. And I think that's true for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and the crocodile, when it comes into your dream, as this one did, is like really quite scary. But there's a great twist to your dream, because as the crocodile steps out onto the land, it then turns into a golden retriever. Well, what could be sweeter, happier, more nice and easy to manage than something as charming as a golden retriever? And instead of the symbol of, again, the dog is another masculine symbol, where cats would tend to be a feminine symbol. So all the way through the dream, you've had the snake as the masculine, and the spider would be the feminine counterpart of that. The crocodile, which is definitely a symbol of fear, who turns into another much more amiable male symbol. So in your reality, as you're moving into making your way in the world and dealing with the kinds of people that you do in your work, that's showing you that you're coping with it quite well. And from time to time, unconscious fears surface. But the fact that the unconscious fear turns into a golden retriever, who you then have a marvellous conversation with about cellular phones and which one is the best type and what you should do and how you should do it, is really, again, giving you confirmation that in your personal life, each step that you're taking at the moment is really putting you into contact with different areas of society, and that each one can help you in a certain way. And
Right.
you still maintain your love of all the natural things. You're able to really gain a lot of benefit from being out in the open and being, around eucalypts, especially. If you need to relax, that would be a place to go. And if you need to unwind, you really dream saying to you, get out into the country and just take in that wonderful essence of the Australian bush that's so healing and nurturing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, that's a
Yes.
great dream.
The most effective methods of recalling a dream are as follows. Before sleeping, plan to recall whatever dreams appear and place a pad and pen or tape recorder within easy reach of the bed. Select an unpressured period of days with minimum stress, such as a vacation or weekend. Allow yourself to waken spontaneously from a dream rather than abruptly from an alarm clock. When getting up, record the dream in the order recalled, except when there are verbal expressions fresh in the mind, such as songs or poems. When finished recalling a dream, lie back down gently into a usual sleeping position to promote additional dream recall. Some people who have difficulty remembering a dream may use an alarm clock set to go off at 90-minute to 2-hour intervals during the night to capture ongoing dreams. The most vivid dreams occur right after the REM or rapid eye movement period of sleep, which usually occurs numerous times in intermittent periods during the night.
Remembering dreams is not as hard as you think. Most of us in our society don't remember our dreams, I guess, because our parents would tend to say to us, oh, it's just a dream, don't pay any attention to it. And of course in more sort of, in brackets, primitive societies who do pay great attention to their dreams, their symbolism comes through every day in a unique form. And because they're willing to accept that, and they often share their dreams with everyone else in the tribe, they have more benefit from their dreams than, say, the average Westerner, because we'll only really remember a very frightening dream or a really significant dream or one with a really quirky type feeling. For instance, if you dream that your teeth are falling out, often that's a symbol that you're not getting your teeth into what you really would like to do in your life, or that you're lying to yourself. Apropos of the expression we have, always he or she is lying through their teeth. And because we have these funny little sayings, often the meaning of that saying will come into a dream and you'll actually live it in a realistic way. Because lots of people say that they never dream. Really what they're saying is they never remember their dreams. And from that perspective, it's part of our society where we don't pay attention to dreams. And that's fine. They lead normal, happy, healthy lives. They may not need to encumber themselves with a whole lot of information from dreams. However, often those people at some stage in their lives will have one or many significant dreams. Whether they pay any attention to them, of course, is their free will. I found that by writing my dreams down, it's actually helped me to have more and more dreams. So frequently I might have 5 or 6 dreams in the one night, and that helps me to get a totally different perspective about an issue or a situation that's going on in my waking life. Well, flying dreams I love, and I get a lot of people ask me about flying dreams. Personally, I do believe that we all have the ability to astral travel, that is, consciously allow our spirits to move away from our physical bodies and to remember the experience that we have in our spirit body in the same way that we do in our physical body. So often flying dreams are the first indication that someone has of their ability to actually move in their dreams and go to different places. And because astral traveling is something you can do when you're not asleep, you can then train yourself after you've had a few flying dreams to consciously astral travel, visit your friends and loved ones, anyone with whom you have a strong emotional connection. And from that perspective, you can then move on to investigating all sorts of other areas in the spirit body as well. I'd say the Russians have probably done more work on this in Western society. Certainly the Indians and the gurus have known about this kind of thing for many, many years. The Tibetans use astral projection, and more than likely I would imagine the Australian Aboriginals have used astral projection to find waterholes and to connect with their brethren at corroborees and things, and because they've been doing it for so many centuries, they probably don't even know how to explain that that's what they do. to us Westerners who haven't experienced it with as much clarity. A lot of people dream in black and white. A lot more people really dream in black and white. It's only very visual people who constantly dream in Technicolor, and they usually have CinemaScope, and their dreams are like full-length movies or great soap operas with intricate details and wonderful things like that. So for the majority of people who dream in color are really visual type people. They tend to worry about how they appear to others and use the key word I see or it seems to me as if. But auditory people, people who listen to the tone of voice and gather information through listening rather than seeing, they'll frequently dream in black and white because it's a more symbolic form of communication. Well, as I said, the purpose of a prophecy in a dream is often to avert disaster, not to confirm it. So if you are a fairly prophetic person, if you have a lot of feelings about the future, and often that, that is just the type of personality somebody has, you'll have a dream 2 or 3 times, and it's very, very powerful, so you actually take notice of it. And as you're taking notice of it, your actions will change. And I've spoken to a lot of people who have extremely powerful déjà vu experiences. Often I think that's a dream that you've experienced that you haven't remembered, and then when you're living the action, you suddenly remember the dream. So you think you might be just putting your cup down on the sink or opening the refrigerator to get the milk out, and you think, oh, I've done this before, I've got this memory. Or you'll meet someone during the day and think, I've met that person before, and the déjà vu experience is really helping you to understand that there is some kind of connection, that your dream was a prophetic dream, even if you don't remember it.
But I guess some people do have predictions in their dreams, like one guy who had the plane that went sideways and then fell down in America somewhere, I think it was.
That's one of the most common ones, because there are more and more plane crashes happening around the world all the time now, and so often people will dream about it, but it's difficult to know whether it's something that's going to happen tomorrow or in a week's time or a month's time or a year's time. I would say to people, if they have a dream not to get on an aeroplane, it's probably a good idea to listen to that and not do it. I find that really fascinating. People will often write to me or ring me about past lifetime incidents where they may suddenly be in the middle of their own hometown, and then they'll be transported into what seems to be a concentration camp, and they don't have the same physical body that they have now, or they're experiencing something from the perspective of as if it were happening in that reality. You might find that people go back into medieval times in their dreams, or they may even go into futuristic things. So certainly it's not only past lifetimes that you would dream about, but also future lifetimes too. If you get a dream book that you feel comfortable with, even if it's one, and I have read one like this that says that the dream symbol means the opposite of what you actually dream about. Now, if I believe that, it'll work for me. If I've got a dream dictionary written in the 16th century that says if I dream about horses, it means I'm going to get married, if I believe that, then my higher self will actually use that information to send me dream symbols that fit in with that thing. I think it would have to be a fairly shonky type of dream therapist not to have it work in some way or another. And people, if they use their common sense in their dreams, can kind of look at it and say, well, this may be true in America or Britain or Arabia, where the culture is X, Y, or Z, and here we might have to mediate it a little bit and modify it, because we're all very different in our own perceptions of life. Generally, I try to stick to the way that the symbols appear in the dream. They often have a chronological order. For instance, I might be analysing a dream about someone who starts off in their own home and then they end up back in the schoolroom they were in when they were 5 or 6 years old. So that's telling the dreamer that there's an issue going on in their environment with their intimates in their home that's similar to something they hadn't resolved with their parents at an earlier age. So it's kind of learning how to make those connections between present time and a past experience, which generally our unconscious mind has suppressed and pushed right down, so that it's only going to come up in a symbolic form in some cases. Not as extensively as I wish it could be. In fact, a marvellous dream that a friend of mine had was after she just had an operation, and she had a dreadful fever, and the doctors were very worried about her and wondering whether the operation had indeed fixed up the problem. And that night she had this incredible dream where she was out in the middle of the Australian desert, and she met an Aboriginal elder who buried her in the ground right up to her neck. And during that time, she just had to lie there. It was a very dark night, and she's looking at the stars. And in the morning, the elder came and uncovered her and took all the sand away from her. And she got up and walked around and stretched her body and felt marvellous. And during the night, the fever that she was experiencing in the hospital had actually broken. So whether that helped her in some way to understand and to feel confident that what she was experiencing in her physical body in her waking life wasn't as terrible and dramatic, that it was really just the crux of the illness, and that in the morning she'd be fine. But the dream, not only did it help her to calm down and stop worrying about her physical condition, but she felt really spiritually nurtured by it as well. So it obviously had a very powerful effect on her. Although I would like to say that the future of dreaming, I think, is extraordinary. There's so much potential to be gained from analysing and understanding our individual dreams, and certainly our higher self's way of communicating with us. It is very personal. There's no one else that knows you inside out better than you. So if you do pay attention to your dreams, you're going to get a lot of extra information that it might take you years of therapy or years of working on yourself to actually access. So certainly that's true. And of course, who knows, technology may beat us to it. We've got virtual reality, which is almost like you step into another person's dream or another person's imagined scenario. So if you could tape your own dreams and then step into them as a virtual reality during the day, that could be an exciting pastime too. Whether we'd have the time to go to work or raise families or do those kinds of things, who knows, maybe not. But it certainly, I find it extraordinarily exciting, and it's something that keeps filling me with passion and enthusiasm, which is why I've got, I don't know, I mean, I just love it. It started off as a hobby, and now it's become one of my favourite professions, and I'll probably stick with it for a few years anyway.
Once early the domain of shamans, priests and psychoanalysts, the use of dreams to explore our minds is becoming increasingly important in our day-to-day lives. Analysing dreams in search for hidden meanings can provide us with a useful and practical insight into our inner selves, and ultimately provide us with a vital link between our conscious and unconscious.